Here we are at IoT World AI Summit, Austin, Texas. I'm happy to say I've got Beep with us here. Simon West, Chief Experience Officer for Beep. Welcome.
Thank you, great to be here.
So not everyone knows what Beep is. What is Beep?
So Beep operates a fleet of autonomous electric shuttles in sites around the country, kind of operating in first mile, last mile solutions. These are 8 to 12 passenger shuttles, what we might call micro-mobility, intended to connect everything from residential communities to retail centers, and really solving, again, that kind of first mile, last mile shared mobility.
So what does it mean purpose-built?
So these are purpose-built from the ground up autonomous shuttles. We're not doing kind of retrofits of SUVs and so forth. These are generally, again, about 8 to 10 passenger shuttles, low speed. We're operating them in geofenced, fixed routes. It's kind of one of the philosophies of the business is we think that at this stage of the game, autonomous technology is going to be most rapidly advanced by defining the problem set. And so we're not trying to solve for that coast to coast, highway to highway, watch a movie in the back of the car kind of environment. We operate exclusively inside geofenced areas, fixed routes. These could be mixed mode, operating with other traffic. They could be, in a couple of cases, in dedicated shuttle lanes. You had Brandon from Peachtree Corners at the event earlier. There we're operating in a dedicated AV lane, but purpose-built shuttles for that use case.
But these are fully autonomous. There's no steering wheel. I mean, there's a safety driver, of course, because of regulation, but they run by themselves.
That's right, they are autonomous. They're operating in what we call level 3. There is a safety attendant on board. That attendant has the ability to operate the shuttle if necessary, although these shuttles are operating in autonomous mode at mid 90% of the time, but they are otherwise completely autonomous.
So you're Chief Experience Officer. What does experience to do with autonomous shuttles?
That's a great question. I think, we've heard about experience for a long time, right? Companies been talking about customer experience, about user experience. I think to put someone with that title, to actually put someone in that role is progressive on Beep's part, but I think we're seeing more and more companies, particularly in the technology space, understand that experience has to be more central than simply either UX, which is making sure that our digital interfaces are a pleasure to use, intuitive to use, easy to use, or customer experience, which is more typically a little more transactional in nature, right? Customer service oriented. We believe you've actually got to put experience at the heart of everything you do. That is to say, experience is not something that is an output of your product development. Experience is the input to product development. Experience is the input to how you structure your customer relationships and so forth. I think that's important for all companies. I think when you're dealing with companies like Beep, operating in emerging technologies, the experience is going to be absolutely key, right?
So you're relatively new at Beep. You came in about 6 or 7 months ago or so. And we have talked to Joe Moya, the CEO, about the whole strategy.
Yeah.
When you come in as an experience officer, and you have presumably all these techie people developing the technology, where does experience then kind of jump in and fit in the grand scheme of things? I mean, how do you, I mean, I know what customer experience is, obviously, but how do you say, no tech guys, that's not the way to do it, we need to have this as experience?
That's a great question. Well, I think we've got a tech team that understands this and a company that understands it anyway. It's almost an orchestral role, it's an integration role. And it's about everything from, again, making sure our user interfaces, whether they're for command center personnel and ultimately as we move to fully remote attendant personnel, or whether it's the app that you might use to track the progress of the shuttle as you're waiting for it at a kiosk. So there's a UX element to it, but it's really more foundational than that. When we talk to the product teams and when the CTO and I work together, it's really about starting with the experience, saying, right, as we evolve this product, as we introduce this piece of functionality, let's not start with the features and the benefits, let's start with the experience, let's describe the experience, define, storyboard the experience, and now we can work out how to apply technology to solve for that.
Yeah. So I rode the Beep shuttle early generation in Tampa, Florida. Yeah. And the thing would be stop, go, it was in a high traffic area, and that I would consider experience.
Absolutely.
So how would you then take that, I mean, I know that was, again, that was the early generation model. How would you as an experienced officer take that back to the tech people and say, hey, you can't have the thing do this?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, one of the things for me, I'm a career B2B software and services guy. So the chance to actually be a consumer of a product for me is actually something that's quite new. And when I'm in our headquarters in Lake Nona in Florida, I take the Beep shuttle. I take it to a restaurant that's 1.5 miles up the road from the hotel. So I'm experiencing that
Oh, that's excellent.
Right? We can solve for some experiential things. We're obviously part of a rich ecosystem. You know, we don't make the shuttles. We partner with manufacturers who build the shuttles. We partner with technology companies who are building the automated driving systems, the ADSs. Some of this will be solved by what are really rapid advances in this technology. You know, we're now working, we announced earlier this year, we're working with an OEM partner, Benteler, and an ADS company, Mobileye, on the next generation of vehicles. There's a degree to which those vehicles will help with some of those issues, right? These early vehicles, lower speed, right? Slightly different, and that lower speed isn't a limitation of the vehicle, it's actually a limitation of the sensors. So as the sensors get more sophisticated, as we, for example, get the ability not to have a LiDAR system and a camera system that are two completely independent systems, but as we get fused systems where the LiDAR and the camera are working in concert with one another, forming a more complete picture of what's going on, rapidly more cognitive, you know, more easily capable very quickly of understanding what an object is that may be in the road or on the roadway or on the sidewalk, then that ride gets better and better because the vehicle gets more and more intelligent, both in terms of line of sight, and obviously one of the interesting things with IoT and with smart traffic infrastructure is we now have the capability of a vehicle not just capable of being incredibly cognitive of what's around it, but being predictive about what might be a mile and a half up the road as well. And I think you'll see the ride quality, I think you'll see our operating domains, where we can operate these vehicles, advance quite rapidly. In the meantime though, the learning that we're getting from road hours, from carrying passengers at these sites around the country, is really a key part of input into that.
So as part of the experience role with the product team, negotiation and understanding where you might go to the team and say, it needs to do this, and they say, well, this is why we can't do that, and then when they go to you and say, hey, we can do this, and you say, well, that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it's very much a conversation, right? And I'm learning an awful lot in the 6 months I've had on the job about exactly what that tech stack looks like. But ultimately, I think you've got to examine it as an integrated experience. And again, we're a bit of a B2B2C hybrid because our customers are private developers, smart cities, public transit operators, and yet the customers of our customers, the passengers, will ultimately be the key to whether or not this technology is successful. And if you look at the passenger experience, what we're interested in is everything from, I need to get somewhere, how do I learn about the shuttle, how do I get to the shuttle, what's the experience like while I'm waiting for the shuttle, if I'm in a wheelchair, how do I get on board and off board the shuttle, how am I secured while I'm in the shuttle, how do I learn about the technology. At the moment we have safety attendants on shuttle who are not just there for safety, but they're kind of the ambassadors for the technology, for the brand, for the community. So how do I learn about it? The entire experience. And that includes the vehicle itself. Comfort of the vehicle, look and feel of the vehicle is something we spend a lot of time with on our partners. So it's part of what I was thrilled about was it's kind of all-encompassing, and it really is a holistic opportunity to say, how do we define this experience from start to finish?
So we're sitting here a year from now having this conversation about Beep. What will we be talking about?
Oh, that's a great question. I think we will certainly be talking about the next-gen shuttles. We've announced some of that work so far. We haven't been able to do much show and tell. I think we'll be able to talk about that. The technology, I think, continues to advance. It reminds me, I'm an old cloud guy, and it reminds me of the cloud infrastructure world in about 2004, 2005. Very, very rapid advances really on all fronts in terms of capability. Here again, at this show, the advances and the penetration of smart traffic infrastructure into communities is going to be key for us. This is something that will really allow us to fulfill the vision, and the vision to me should be not just to deliver a service that is at parity with a conventional transit service, but autonomous, but the ability to integrate this kind of technology and deliver a service that is demonstrably better than what has gone before it. And so the smart infrastructure is a huge part of that. How can we take that data and use that data to proactively and in real time improve route quality, ride quality, timeliness, and so forth?
Well, I look forward to that conversation.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.